Hey, what is happening, Bulls and Bears? It is November 2nd, 2022. Today is Fed Day. We're going to talk about that. But first, Wells Fargo, the big news, a lot of layoffs, The mortgage industry is getting obliterated. And sorry about the outfit today, guys. I was recycling some bottles and cans, and I got my scrub clothes on. It's actually my dad's old military jacket with the sleeves cut off. So you guys aren't here to look at my clothes. Let's talk about Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo brace staff for layoffs as U.S. loan volume collapses. Listen to the severeness of this decline here. Wells Fargo has 18,000 loans in its origination pipeline in the first few weeks of the fourth quarter. We know that is not a lot because look at the year prior, 90% decline. This is a huge drop. This is what I would call a crash. If this was a price we were looking at, a 90% drop is a crash. So this is a collapse in loan origination volume. So naturally, we're going to see a lot of layoffs. Now, there's a misconception out there that I like giving out bad news, that I get joy out of talking about these things. I don't like to talk about or hear about anyone losing their job. But all of this was foreseeable. And when you have jobs that are created because of an economic bubble and all this stimulus and money creation and debt accumulation, you're going to see the opposite when things finally change. Of course, we have the higher rates, but we also have just enormous debt levels in U.S. households. And so this is, not a joy to talk about, but this was obvious. We all saw this coming. Anyone that's surprised by this is, definitely not watching this channel very often. 18,000 loans, 90% decline from a year earlier. Employees are on edge after the bank began cutting workers in April, and internal projections point to more departures. This is out of CNBC, and several other news outlets reported on this. Now, let's get into some more numbers here. We all know that the mortgage rates are 7% plus. If you get a shorter loan, you can get it for under that still. If you get a 15-year loan, something like that. But let's just say 7%. 7%, double from what it was just at the beginning of the year. This is an unprecedented rise. And a lot of people are surprised that prices haven't came down faster and harder in the housing market. So I think prices will come down more. But let's talk about what the Fed we'll talk about that in a few minutes. I say but because the Fed said some stuff today. I sat there and watched the meeting. I watched the Q&A from the press, and I watched Powell's whole speech, and I sat through it so you wouldn't have to, but we're going to talk about that. First, though, home buyers have been squeezed, and the pace of the refinancing has plummeted. So we also have the refinance market plummeting, as well as originations for purchases plummeting. And this means loan officers, see ya, there's the door. Sadly, where are these people going to work? Are they going to work in the gig economy? Are they going to take some of these jobs that we see at all these food places and restaurants, help wanted signs everywhere? I mean, there's a lot of jobs out there. The problem is the reason people are not taking these jobs is because they know it will not keep up with the rising cost of living and the current high inflation. Now, the current high inflation, we're just talking about what Fed Chairman today, Jerome Powell, came out and said. Keep in mind, this is the same guy that said inflation was transitory about a year and a half ago, yet he gets paid millions of dollars for putting out his forecast, and everyone's glued to the screen. What's he going to say? What's he going to say? So we have to listen to this cat, clown, goofball that's obviously very disconnected with reality because he has the keys to the kingdom, right? So when the kingdom is being ran by an idiot, you still have to sit there and follow him because, he has control, even though he has no clue what's going on, obviously. How did this channel get it right? We said inflation was here to stay and it's going to get worse and it's going to stay elevated. And just look at the CPI number, which is way off. But still, if you look at the CPI number, we're still elevated. Now, here's the really sad part about it. The Fed's talking about trying to get back to a 2% inflation, which is their inflation target, 2%. But getting back to 2% doesn't cure inflation. It doesn't fix anything because prices are still going up, but just at a slower rate. So if we get to 2%, prices will go up but just slower, right? So we don't need prices to go up. We need deflation. Now, it's really beyond absurd that housing, rents, and home prices are not included in the CPI number. That's just one of the things that make the CPI number very insignificant, even though we have to talk about it because that's what's put out there, by these people. It's just absurd. It's beyond absurd. But the 2% inflation target is a joke. We don't need a 2% inflation target. We need deflation. We need a negative goal. Like if they said we need negative 10% inflation, that would be deflation. That would be a falling cost of living. That's what we need. Now, one of the bragging points about the current administration is that we've had the biggest increase to Social Security that we've seen in decades. But is it a bragging point? Or if you look at the underlying reason that is needed or that was implemented is because inflation is so out of control. But yet they're using it as a positive talking point, right? So go figure. I listened to the speech. Now, did you guys catch this? Powell taking questions from the press. All the major media news outlets, all the business news channels were there. And even though it was supposed to be questions that he wasn't expecting, he was looking down at his papers during a lot of the answers. And he was looking down at points that weren't just him reading data or giving out numbers or figures, just him giving his opinions and not exactly talking about data. So did you guys catch that? Maybe I'm the only one that caught that. So if it's a Q&A and you don't know the questions that are going to be asked, why would you have something written down that just so happens to match the question that's being asked to you, right? So that tells me that the questions were probably pre-screened. And I didn't really see a lot of people holding their feet to the fire, no one being really overcritical. It was all about, we appreciate you, thank you thank you for what you do. We have Ben Bernanke. He won a big award for his failures, and I do say failures. Remember, before the housing bubble in 2008, Ben Bernanke was the chairman. He was out there telling everyone that subprime loans were contained and that there was not going to be any problem, that there's a little bit of froth in the housing market, but that we're not going to see any big corrections. You guys remember that? So Bernanke ends up winning this award. I forgot the name of it, but it's a big award. But the point is that these people are put out there as heroes when they're actually just failures. And you can say maybe they're doing this on purpose, so maybe you wouldn't call them a failure. So either they're lying or they're just very, very wrong. Either way, it's a joke. All right, this whole thing's a joke. But we have to sit back and listen to what these people say. And I think they're going to be steering us into a engineered economic collapse. I think it is engineered. It's going to be a slow decline unless we have a surprise situation that pops up, war, a strike, maybe on U.S. soil, an outage, grid failure, blackouts, fuel crisis. We have, 25 days of diesel fuel left. Now, of course, they're going to replenish some of that inventory, but we're at the levels we have not seen since 2008, and things are a lot different now as far as the fuel. We have sanctions against Russia. There goes a big part of that. We shut down our own pipelines here in the U.S., a lot of them. There's a big part of it. So things are a lot different than 2008, and we're at the same levels that we were, and we're going to keep an eye on it. But we could be looking at a very dramatic, not just dramatic, dangerous Mad Max scenario, because when diesel runs out or when it becomes so expensive that trucks just stop delivering, you're looking at Mad Max. So the shelves will be empty in just a matter of days. You have about 72 hours of items on the store shelves when new deliveries stop coming in. And that's not much time. Don't wait until within that 72 hours. You want to accumulate a little. This is what I do. You want to accumulate a little bit of canned food. I try to get some every week. Every trip to the grocery store, buy at least one extra item. I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. The old saying goes. All right, so let me know what you think about the Fed meeting. Oh, by the way, the Fed hinted at a slowdown in the rate of increases, and I told you that would likely be market positive. Here's the thing. The market was up temporarily, but the Dow Jones today ended up down 1.5%. So even a hint at a rate increase slowdown or a lessening of the rate hikes didn't put the markets in the green today. The only index that was in the green was the Russell 2000, right? So wild times, folks. Let me know what you think about the Wells Fargo layoffs. Where are these people going to work? Probably not in the banking sector. And I learned a long time ago that the banking sector is volatile. I actually work in the finance industry right now, but it's in a company that has a lot of other positions available when one sector, one division slows down. So I feel lucky. My job could be gone though too. I'm prepared for it, and I'm have a backup plan in place for that too. It's what I recommend everybody to do. Thanks everybody for being here. We're going to wrap this one up here. Please make sure you like, subscribe, help this channel if you like what we talk about here. Thanks for being here. See you down in the comments. Bye for now and peace.